In today's Scrappy video about voice, we're going to be asking the very fundamental question, what is a voice? Ah. So, it's not a simple question. It's not a simple answer. And often as a voice coach, people kind of say to me, oh, so what, you're a voice coach. What does that mean? What does that mean, Alex? I don't understand. With good reason. There are a multitude of different definitions of what the voice are. And as a voice coach, I'm kind of primarily working with the physical aspect of the voice. But I have, for the purposes of this video, on my lovely piece of paper here, it's not paper, it's digital. I've got 5 different definitions of voice. So we can see the different realm of this interesting field that I am in. I think it's interesting. It's what I do. So we're going to look at 5 different definitions. So you can see, in particular in voice research, why it's sometimes quite difficult to say what is a voice. So, dun 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 dun, number 1, physical. So you got the physical voice. This is what you work on with a voice coach. If you're an actor, if you're a speaker, if you're someone who's wanting to go into a new environment in your life and you want your voice to function better than it does at the moment, you're going to look at the physical aspect of your voice. And it's not dissimilar to, like, I don't know, going and working with a personal trainer in a way. The personal trainer, and you go and you're trying to get your body to do something that currently it can't quite do, and you're learning ways to train that body to do those things better. So in the terms of the the physical body, we kind of focus on the source of the voice. This is the larynx. So you've got the power that comes from the breath. The breath passes through up your esophagus, goes over your vocal folds. This is what you think of as vocal cords. They vibrate. They make a very thin, reedy sound. But we have these wonderful resonators. The pharynx at the back of the throat, the mouth, the nasal cavity, and this changes the sound. This is the filter of this source, which is that kind of thin, reedy sound. It gets transformed by all these muscles into all of the different sort of sounds that people's voices can make, which is pretty cool, I think, because you can make subtle changes and it will make the person's voice sound very, very different. And all I'm doing is like slightly moving little muscles in that area. So you can learn a lot, and that's the physical, anatomical way of looking at voice. Dun dun dun! The second way of doing voice, looking at voice, is to think of it as identity. So this is one of those things. This is kind of often in research. I apologise, I coughed there. Terrible. Why do I apologise? Keep going, Alex. We're not editing these videos, so it has to be clear. Identity. So who are you? So I talk about neurodivergence. It's one of the things I do. I talk about that because that's part of my performance. Like my clown performances are often about neurodivergence as a performer. And that's kind of like a social identity. So you talk about sort of, maybe the neurodivergent community is one that hasn't existed before, or hasn't been pulled together, and now people are talking about neurodivergence, and now this is a part of the community of the world of humans that has a voice. And similarly with like gender, race, beliefs, there's all these kind of social identities that we're a part of, and they can have more or less of a voice in society. And this will interact with physical voice work, because a lot of the stuff that we're kind of indoctrinated to communicate in a particular way, you grow up and you maybe you're really loud, maybe you chat and you talk over people because you've got ADHD, like me, and then you just want to talk to people and throw your ideas in, but that's not allowed societally, so you kind of stop doing that, and it affects how you're using your physical voice because of this identity-based voice. That's number 2. Dun, dun, dun. Number 3. What is number 3? Well, it's to do with your personality. So who are you? Like you personally. So there's this social identity, sure. But like why do you, or how do you show up in the world, and why do you use your voice in the way that you use it? So say you're a quiet person. I am quite a quiet person. Obviously, I'm not. But like in the world, I've kind of gone into the world and I've, like, quietness is it's a defense mechanism. If I don't speak up when I think something is wrong, or or I disagree with something, or I want clarification on something I don't understand, which happens all the time, I don't want to be seen like an idiot, so I stay quiet. Now that I've done like voice for 10 years and I'm a clown and I'm like allowed bits of me to come out, bits of me, sounds like my ears falling off, then I'm allowed, or I give myself the permission to sort of change basically how I show up as a person, you know. So although I would have said I was a quiet person, actually, like, the more I'm allowing myself to use my, you know, voice in this terms, the more my personality, the voice, changes. I now see myself as a bigger person than I did before. So that's your kind of personality-based voice, and they're the ones that like are unique to you, but they're also changeable as we change. You know, we sort of think that we're fixed, but actually we're not. We can change and we can improve based on our own decision of what improvement should be, not society's. And you know, this is something that's the sort of it's ours personally. I don't think that was very clear. So if you understood that, very, very good. But that's part of who I am. Is I'm a bit of a scrappy person, and that's okay, because some people understand me, and some people don't. We'll move on to number 4. What is the fourth? That was very intense. Been pushing the camera. Number 4 is the voice as in the impact on others. So this is one of those things that you see. I as a voice researcher, I often like look through research papers and I get sort of derailed quite a lot, having to read papers and then going, oh, they're not talking about the voice, physical voice. They're talking about like the organizational voice, as in one of a company. You know, are we hearing all of the voices in this company, or are we hearing all the voices in this society? So it's kind of like it's how I've got the term here because we're talking about stuff from research. Yes, the capacity to speak up. So are you able to make your needs and your thoughts heard, or are you being sort of either actively or passively kind of squashed by whatever group of people you're in? And as I say, a lot of the research is around like businesses. You know, do we get the board? Is there enough voice? Is there enough marginalised voice in our communities? And it's not a physical thing at all. It's a kind of organisational thing, but it's related to social identity. And finally, number 5, the definition of voice that they use in literary circles. You know, someone will be reading, and they'll be like, "Well, they've got a very strong voice." You know, I used to like Hunter S. Thompson when I was growing up. Very, very kind of intense, drug-addled writer from the sort of end of the 60s, he was around in the 50s, and then it doesn't matter. That's one of my areas of geekery. But he had this really intense voice when he was writing, because he would get like just had loads of drugs, and he'd be sit with a typewriter. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This is if you've seen this film, and he would just sit and write. So he had this like stream of consciousness voice, which I appreciated, because I like people who have kind of very authentic voices, you know, who don't sort of over edit things. So that's a literary voice, but obviously that affects the other voices that you use as well. So if you allow yourself to have this kind of unique way of putting together words, as you can see, I have a unique way of putting together words. I just take words and then I sort of throw them, and maybe they make sense and maybe they don't. And that's kind of what I try to do when I'm writing as well. Is sort of keep as immediate and close to what's going on inside my head as possible on paper, because I quite like it. Some people quite like it. It's the type of writer that I used to quite like, so there's a perfectly good reason for doing it. But society says, no, you must structure everything in clear sentences and stuff. The beige voice, this is what the writer Tom Wolfe calls that. It says this kind of overly clinical way of writing in order to remove personality. I believe in personality. Anyway, that was a tangent about literary voice. So there we have it. We have 5 definitions of voice. We've got physical voice, identity-based voice. We've got, this is me reading, you know this, I've already waved my piece of paper around. Why don't I hold it up here? That would be good. We have physical, identity, personality, impact on others, and the literary voice. So when people say to me, what is voice? If I say I'm a voice coach, I focus on the physical, but really, it all connects together in a big picture, because all of these aspects will affect how we're using this physical apparatus, which is the muscles of our voice. That was a bit of a bizarre video, but that's what we're getting in this this series of every day. I'm writing a video, recording a video about voice, and that's what came out today. So if you're interested in voice, if you want to find out about any of these things, if you think this was incomprehensible, what on earth were you talking about, you can put a comment at the bottom and I will go, oh, okay. Or you can sign up, or to see if I've got more comprehensible things in the future. You could hit the bell icon. You could follow me on social media. And if you're interested in learning about your physical voice in Voice Lab, there is a link at the bottom for the waitlist for when that starts up next. Oh, I don't think I breathed throughout the entire video there. That's where my brain is today. Have a good one.